So if I understand correctly, so first you started researching haptic language from the perspective of linguistics, right? Which is closely related to creating haptic icons, right? It's arbitrary symbols. But they are taking lots of cognitive load from people, right? They're not as intuitive and all that. So now we need to find another method, a way to create more intuitive touch, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
So the question is how, and you mentioned an interesting idea of, I assume, adopting certain things from sound, right? Because it's essentially the same. And actually, it's related also to some works that I've done so far. And I see that certain aspects, let's say, of engineering parameters like frequency and amplitude, they are related to, you can translate them, the effect could be translated from sound to the vibration, right? Or what other ways could be, in addition to adapting, let's say, music parameters to vibration, maybe other ways?
Yeah, and so
have you thought about other ways of making this language more intuitive, if you thought?
Yeah, definitely. Because it was a conundrum. Because at the end of the day, haptics won't have the opportunity to proliferate as far as we would like them to if the cognitive load for learning haptics is too much work. And so what we drew on is we actually drew on another linguistic element, metaphor, and there became a powerful piece in that, that idea of a kiss or a punch in the face, Can you
tell more about metaphor? What do you mean by that, and how do you create it?
Yeah, so the way we look at haptics is instead of looking at it as letters and words, we look at it as metaphors and context. And so if you imagine, for example, in my TED talk, I talked about this idea of stop, right? If I was given the task of designing the haptic for stop, what would I do? Where would I start? Right now, I could just design any ramp, but right? And over time, you'll learn that means stop if you like my product enough to want to learn that, right? And it's distinctive enough from everything else. But how do I make you feel like you should stop, even if you've never felt the haptic before? Right?
So how?
and the thing is that we all have a tactile memory. Most of us can require the whoopings we got from our moms as little kids, with sticks on trees or whatever, however your parents did it, right? Those tactile memories are real. Most of us have the memory of being in a car and having that car stop suddenly, right? Or getting your bag caught on a door and that motion of that jerk of you thought you could move, but some force said that you can't. Pull back on it, right?
But isn't it true that haptic memory is kind of short also? We can't really recreate it in our memories until we really feel it?
Yeah, I mean, you can't create it in a sense of oh, I saw this picture, let me draw this picture the exact way I saw it. But they're big, if I said, what does it feel like to be stopped? You're okay, if I seatbelt in a car stops suddenly. Or, handbag on a door handle, gets caught in door, right? Or mom grabs your wrist because you were running across the street as a kid, and we all have that experience of the jerk back.
Exactly.
So if we wanted to design stop, if I wanted to design stop, where I would start is how do I create a jerk that resonates in some way with all of the experiences that you've had in life of kind of being stopped, physically from your body. And then I would try to translate that into a haptic experience in some abstract format, I wouldn't try to replicate the exact feeling of pulling on a shoulder, right? And right now in the haptic space, we have lots of people who are doing, they're trying to recreate haptic sensations from reality as in a virtual space as if they were real. That's not what we're doing. We're like the cubist of haptics, we abstract haptics and then pull out the most dominant elements, repeat them, and define meaning around them.
All right, so this is
exactly perfectly as a natural light. We're taking the elements about the haptic experience and amplifying and modifying them to make an intuitive experience that's easier to understand.